Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Soul Work. We are live here on Shaw TV, and I'm your host, Jeni Cousins. And don't forget, Calgary, that I am opening up the phone lines tonight, so you must give us a call. That number is 403-539-6710. And I know that there are going to be some of you that are going to want to talk to my guest. So make sure you do call us, because she'll be able to help you as well. Because on tonight's show, I have a very, very intriguing, interesting guest that I had to have on for many reasons. And on tonight's show, please welcome my guest, Wendy Piper.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course I had to have you on. You know, I don't know if any of you remember or not, but Wendy had phoned in a while ago, maybe a month ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
Around there?
Almost a month ago,
Yeah. And then as I was giving you a reading in that, I thought, you got to come on, because I knew there was a lot more to this situation. So keep that in mind, Calgary. I am very open for that, depending on, you know, who it is and who you are, and especially Wendy having a incredible story that I can connect with to share to you all.
Yeah, because you had a near-death experience as well, hadn't you?
I've had many near-death experiences, and I hadn't done a lot about near-death experiences. So whenever you shared that, I thought, no, you have to come on, because I know there's other people who have. So you were 16 when you had this.
Yeah.
Can you describe what happened?
It was 1978. I was working at a resort way up in the Rockies, very isolated, and we were at a function, and I lost consciousness, and I had a temperature of 104. And at that point, a medic made a decision to rush me to Rocky Mountain House Hospital. And it's strange, because I remember being jostled on a stretcher, but I was also watching myself like it was a movie. And I watched myself being carried on a stretcher to a truck. At the time, I could have read the license plate. It was that clear. And I was put into this Suburban, and I could see everybody getting in the car, where they were. But again, I was unconscious. We started the drive to Rocky Mountain House. They flew from bump to bump, because I could feel the truck just flying. And it would have taken, it's about an hour-and-a-half trip. If you're doing the speed limit, it took them about 40 minutes. At some point, I remember I floated up, and I was in the very corner of this Suburban looking down, and I could see the driver and my girlfriend and her escort that was to look after her, and then there was the medic, and I was laid out, and then there was my escort who was supposed to look after me. He was clutching my hand, and I see him put his ear to my mouth, and he goes, "Oh." And it was 1978. He did the big thump, because they did that before they started CPR, and then he's giving me CPR. And I'm just watching from the corner of the truck. I'm watching the whole thing unfold. And I hear my girlfriend, who's sitting in the center front seat, she says, "Wendy, if you die, I'll kill you." And I thought, oh, well, good to know. And shortly after that, I floated up into darkness, up through the roof of the truck, and I remember thinking, oh, where am I going? And I started to see scenes from my life, and it started with the present, and it went backwards. And soon I was a child, and I was watching myself growing up. And then I was in a space like before I was born. And I looked up, and I saw a pinpoint of light. And I just remember floating, ever so tranquil, up through to this light. And I could see this light showering down on me, and I was straining my eyes to see what was out in the darkness, and I could see other souls swimming around out there. And I thought, wait a second, how come they're not being drawn up in the light like I am? And as I got closer, of course, the light opens up and gets bigger and brighter, and pretty soon I've arrived somewhere. And I was trying to close my eyes because it was so bright. It was just the whitest, brightest light you can imagine. You couldn't see anything. And I realized I don't have eyelids to close. And as kind of the smoke clears, and I see people-shaped white spots coming to greet me. And I can feel them loving me. And I'm thinking, who are these people? But then a different figure walks out from the light. And I'm thinking, who is this now? Is this God? And this person stops and looks back towards the source of all the light. And I'm like, okay, so that's God. And then I look at him again and I think, okay, so are you Jesus? And as I said it, it took more form. And I see a red robe over white. And as he gets closer, I start to see a face. And it's a familiar face. And as he walks close to me, here's where I'm going to cry.
You'll be fine.
As he walks close to me, his light surrounds me. And it's like I'm in this incredible embrace. And I described it to you as a slow shower of warm chocolate. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like being dipped in chocolate milk almost.
Yeah.
It was a dense feeling. And I became very aware that I was floating and I was sort of gliding around. And so I looked up at him and he said, he held people back that were coming to greet me and he said, wait a minute, business first. You're a lot earlier than we expected you. And I thought, okay. And we turn and suddenly we're just in a big room. A big room, almost like with layers and layers of sheer curtains. It's what it kind of reminded me of. And I was put with an angel. And he went over and was speaking. And so I looked at this spirit guide, this angel, and I get this female feeling off of this angel. And questions are just rifling through my head so fast. And I looked at her and I remember saying, I have so many questions. And she just smiled at me, this knowing smile. And I'm like, oh, what do I ask first? What's most important? So I looked at her and I said, are we alone? Right, that's the big question. And we just sort of turned and the room opened up into looking out into the universe. And I hear this voice in my head say, you are never alone.
You'll be fine.
And I'm presented with a presentation. I'm shown a whole lineup of planets. And if I had to give you a number, I'd say there were at least 13. And she said, look, God is very big. He watches over everything. And your experience on Earth is like a channel on a radio. And every channel has many frequencies. And so all these different realities on each planet, God watches over them all. I'm kind of overwhelmed. And I'm reminded, because they told me this before, I'm reminded that everything is being presented to me in a way that I will understand, in a way that won't frighten me or overwhelm me. And so I'm thinking, oh, okay, so everything I'm seeing is kind of engineered just for me. And I realized that it's a custom experience for every person. And this has been customized just for me. And I had so many more questions. And she was still smiling at me, so I just rapid fire these questions in my mind. And I'm realizing that, hey, I'm thinking, but I'm not thinking with my brain clearly. I still have my mind. I still have all my memories. All the people that my friends and family that I love, that's still with me. Everything's still with me, intact. I haven't lost anything.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible.
It went on, it seemed to go on for a really long time. And then there's a big fuss. After I ask her a million more questions, I'm still writing those down because I want to put them in a book someday. But
you will.
There was so much information, so fast. And there's a big fuss, and we turn, and we're back in the white room. And I see a long table full of men with long beards. And I'm thinking, what, no women? And I'm reminded again that it's presented to me in a way that I will understand, that these are wise souls that are making a decision, because I wasn't supposed to be there yet. And I'm told, no, you have to go back, and you have to go back right now. And I said, well, I want to have more of a tour. I want to look around. No, you can't. You have to go, and you have to go right now. And all of a sudden, there's a nasty crunch on my chest, a gulp of air, and I'm back. And I'm thinking, whoa.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to come to terms with everything that happened. The craziest thing that happened next was 3 months later. I finally see my girlfriend again, who was in the front of the truck. And she said to me, you know, he gave you CPR like 4 or 5 times. And I looked at her and I said, yeah, I heard you say, Wendy, if you die, I'll kill you. And she said, there's no way you could have known that.
Yeah.
He was literally pumping your heart for you. You were not there. How could you know that? And it gave both of us goosebumps. And a lot of wild things have happened to me since then. I astral traveled and didn't know what it was. I was predicting earthquakes there for a while. I predicted 5 out of 5 earthquakes. I predicted a crack in a dam that wasn't on the news till 24 hours later. Crazy things happen to me all the time. But I prefer to see things as a million little miracles. I see a million little miracles every day. You don't take life for granted anymore. You get on with business. The one thing I didn't get on with, though, was telling my story, because it's taken me 39 years.
And that's when I wanted you to own it and share it.
Yes.
Yes, it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many people that have had the near-death experiences that get really nervous or scared to talk about it. I've had several myself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and immediately I didn't even remember it.
Yeah.
It wasn't till I saw her 3 months later that it all sort of came flooding back to me. And while the angel was talking to me, she said to me, later on, in the fullness of time, it'll be given to you in a way that won't overwhelm you. So when you see someone who needs your help, it will be there. It'll just materialize. And you know, she wasn't wrong.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's going to happen now. Because even I've had my near-death experiences, they've given me many messages. And what they have told me has happened or happening. But Calgary, hang on to that thought. We're not done yet here, Calgary, you can see. We're just going to take a short commercial break. And we are opening up the phone lines. So you can give myself and Wendy a call, and that number is 403-539-6710. We'll be right back after this commercial break.